Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are starting our February masterclass for the love of money. And that's kind of small print on there. So if you can't see it, why financial freedom needs to be your number one priority. If you don't know me, I am Coach Tina, and I am so excited about being a part of our Empowering Champions community and offering this amazing February masterclass. If you are watching live or on the replay, please go ahead and put hashtag live or hashtag replay. So happy to have you, whether you're here with me right now or whether you're catching up later today. We are on day one, and I'm just so excited to share with you the material that I think is important for this month. Many of you have heard me say it's Love Month because it's the month of February, but we're going to be covering finances. Like I said, for the love of money is the idea here. And who doesn't love money, right? Money has lots of value and benefit in this world, and we're going to be talking about that today. So let me go ahead and get the slides up on the screen, and we are going to get started. All right. So let me take that banner off, and we will begin. I see some of you have come on, so let me go ahead and say good morning to Margaret. Thank you for being here, and everybody else that's watching as well. Happy to have you be a part of our February Masterclass Day 1. So why are we talking about money on Valentine's Day of all days? And what is it about this financial freedom that's important, right? Well, financial freedom is one of the areas that I get asked about the most. When I ask people when they're coming into our community what their goals are, a lot of people will say financial freedom. And it's become almost like a buzzword for us, right? Like we just want financial freedom. So I thought we better dig in deeper and really figure out what that means. Because what we want is to be able to control our money versus having our money or the need for money control us. And we want financial freedom because, let's face it, if we have financial freedom, our belief is it's going to fulfill all of our wants, all of our desires. If we had money, everything would get better. We're going to talk about that today. And most of us want financial freedom because it's what society has said is what is wealth. And so with money, we have wealth. With money, we have value. With money, we are worth so much. And I want to kind of rip that apart a little bit and talk about that over these 3 days, because our value system about money, our understanding about finances, that all comes into play with how we do the little things in life, the little things and the big things. So I'm really excited to delve into this topic. And one of the things that I read yesterday that I just thought was so good was somebody asked how you spend your days. And that concept of spend, right? We spend our time, we spend our money, obviously, but we don't get time back. And when we talk about spending, it's lost to us. It's given away, or it can be, unless we really are thinking about what we're doing with our time and whether or not the time, how we're using our time, is adding value and adding to the life that we want to have. So let me tell you a little bit more about the masterclass. It is a 3-day masterclass. It runs 7:30 Central, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. And today our topic is buckets and buckets. It's abundance. It's having more, right? And then tomorrow we're going to talk about the money police. And the third day is about our relationship with money, which is something we really need to understand and get in touch with. So how do you define money? I'm very curious to know your thoughts on money. Like, what is money? we all know money doesn't grow on trees, but what is money? What are your thoughts on that? Go ahead and put it in the comments because I'm very curious to know what your thoughts are on money. Well, I'll tell you what Tony Robbins says money is. And before I do, Margaret says money is a messed up system, a replacement for the bartering system, a messed up replacement for the bartering system. Cute. Um, and it is like money was created because we had gifts to give, but it was hard to like give someone a whole cow when that's all we had. And so we started giving a little bit of milk or making some cheese. We started to change things up. And then it was easier to use money when you didn't have the cow to bring to work, have an arm of my cow and still keep it alive. So we created the money system. Now, Tony Robbins likes to say money is a spiritual game. And I love this concept because money, in a sense, is a game. Nowadays we have, gamers, our kids are embroiled in online gaming and so on. And it's easy to look at money as a game that in a sense, we have a leveling up system. A lot of us are playing at the basic level of the game. And then you get a few tools, you get some um, extra energy and resources, and it puts you to the next level. And then you play that level well, and you can up level again, and then you can up level, right? So a lot of us are just stuck down at that bottom level, trying to figure out a way um, to get to the next spot. And I love it. Good morning. I've got someone saying that money is something I haven't had very much of. Oh, and that's Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, for putting that in there. Yeah, so money is important to us in this world, right? It makes an impact. It affects our lives. And so the spiritual part of money is that it's intangible. So, well, what we want from money is intangible. And I've got there that money is tangible. Money is in our hands. We can feel it. So we can feel the lack of it. But I wanted the contrast there of love is an intangible. We can't feel love, but we know when we have it, right? Or we know when we don't have it. And that same thing happens with money. So what we want to do is be aware of the fact that just because we aren't touching it doesn't mean we don't have the energy of money behind us, the abundance. Like, how people have the law of attraction and abundant thinking and so on. That is an energy. And when we think abundantly, when we are positive about our situations or what's going to happen next, it changes the makeup of how money can come to us. So just like food is tangible, right? But air is not. Air is something that we need to live and breathe. So is food. But if we don't have air, we're not going to live for very long. If we don't have food, we can live for much longer. But air is something that is intangible, and yet we still need it. So money is that same thing. And the energy behind money and how we think of money will actually support our life in a much different way. So a lot of us grew up without money or grew up with people that had a poverty mindset. And we've adopted that as our style. And so when we're playing the money game, we want to be very aware of what money and our thoughts of money do, and how as we create more high level thoughts about money, we are going to be able to bring more to us. And I think that's really important for you guys to understand, is that it's most of the money stuff is happening between your ears. And even though it seems like, I'm listening, I'm looking at your things here, you're below the poverty level with the things that you make, or living on Social Security, or whatever your situation is. Those are real. Those are facts. That's tangible. But we all know that in the United States, we have way more money than other countries. And there are a lot of people in other countries that are perfectly happy with what little they have, what little income they have. And we can say, oh, but our economy is this or that. But it's really how we are framing money and the lack of it, or the desire for it in our environment, that is creating this feeling of lack. And when we lack something, it causes so much more that is happening. All right. So let's keep going. Let's keep going and talking about financial freedom. So, what would financial freedom look like to you? This is one of those um, questions that I really want you to think about, and write down 2 or 3 things that would, if you could have everything you wanted and have quote unquote financial freedom, what would that look like? Okay. So I have housing and go to awesome food pantries. Okay. So this is what you have available. That's Sarah. Awesome. So what would financial freedom look like to you, Sarah? And I know Margaret's on here too. Oh, so Margaret has freedom to live in peace. I'm looking at BF and I'm like, BF, that's like best friend, but you're talking about boyfriend, right? So freedom to live in peace. Isn't that interesting? Because peace, now philosophically, peace doesn't cost anything. Obviously, war and things like that do cost us a lot. But what you are attributing to financial freedom is giving you something that you can't actually buy, right? Um, and I think that that's the point of what I was thinking of with financial freedom. Is it's kind of this elusive, what people say they want, but then we can't define it. So it's kind of like the fantasy of like the Disney princess models that we have in the world. We have this dream that we want to be like that, but then we really don't, right? Um, it isn't really what we want. It's just an ideal that's out there. So financial freedom sounds really good and like something we think would be important to us. But then when we go to define it, we're like, I don't know. What would that really look like? So I think it's interesting for us to have that concept. And Margaret is adding more here. She says she wants to be able to give her daughter all that she needs, not wants, but needs. Interesting, right? Um, and that is such a good distinction, Margaret, between we have the things that we need, and then we have the things that we want. And we're going to see that in a little bit. What I wanted to share, though, is I just got done with a Tony Robbins event, and it's based on the wealth model that Tony uses. And he actually has these like money levels that he defines. And so the first one is what the level is called security. And it's basically you can afford your basic living expenses. And we're going to cover what those are in a minute. But we all know what that feels like, right? The bottom rung of the ladder is just we have what we need. And then the second one is what he calls vitality. And I was actually shocked when I read this, because it's not very much. It's living plus about half of the luxuries that you want in your life. And I know that sounds silly, but it isn't all in the whole enchilada, if you will, but it's just a little bit above your needs. It's your needs and some of your wants. And that is what he considers vitality. You're living a life much better than a lot of people, right? That are just barely scraping the security if they can and, paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. Now you're a little bit above that, and you can add in some of the things that make life fun, that little bit of luxury. But the next level is independence, and it's your current quality of life. Now, that is the you have all your security. You have the luxuries that you want in your life. And now you have that quality of life that maybe not the ideal, but you're keeping up with the rest of everybody, right? You can go to the store and not worry about what you have to, that you don't have enough money for your order, or go to a restaurant like Margaret was saying, she can order that DoorDash whenever she wants. That's independence. Okay. And then the next level, now he had 5 levels and I left it off, the 5th one off, just because I was focusing on our freedom, right? And freedom is no longer having to work. Now, I did this on purpose because I thought it was so interesting. His definition of financial freedom is that we have that income that supports us and keeps us moving with all of the security, the little luxuries, and we no longer have to work. And then his 5th category is above and beyond that. And it's called absolute freedom. And it's, you don't have to worry about having money ever again. And these are kind of like what the benchmarks of what wealthy people are looking at for their life. It isn't to have total extravagance. It's being at that place where you get to control what you have in your life. The no longer having to work means that you have brought all of the things that you've done in your life to a place where you have no longer the need to work for somebody else. Maybe you have your business, you've saved, you've done things with your retirement. But again, it's kind of a mind twist, right? Because Social Security is a form of no longer having to work, right? It may not feel like freedom. It may feel like you still need things, but yet you're able to go to the food pantries, have the things that you need, right? So it's interesting. I just am hoping that we kind of get in this idea of money as a construct. Money and the things that we think we want with money are a higher level than maybe what it is we actually need, and that we can be kind of redirecting our energy and our focus to how our finances and what we need to do with our finances, and then maybe define financial freedom as something that is attainable to us and not necessarily so far out of the construct that we can't even ever get there. So today's course was titled Buckets and Buckets. And there are these buckets, and you noticed I have masked out some of them because we're going to be covering the different buckets on different days. Today's focus is on our needs bucket. And I can see my picture is a little bit in the way, so I'm going to move it out that way just a little bit. Well, and then I won't be able to read. Let's go with a smaller version. There we go. So we're going to cover the ones in purple later, but the one I wanted us to think about is the needs bucket is very basic. It's our food, it's our housing, and housing tends to be, the shelter tends to be the most expensive area of our needs bucket, which is why, of course, we have the housing problems or the homeless problems that we have, is because that is the biggest piece. And you may or may not be aware, but because of the housing problem, what cities are doing is coming in and now focusing on the problem, creating housing environments, lower cost housing, and solutions to the housing issues in counties that is hopefully going to be taking care of that basic level. We also have, and I'm going to need to make it just a little bit bigger here so that I can see it. Obviously, we need our clothing, our health, and whether or not we have insurance is an issue, and then transportation. Most of us in this needs category do need to work on some level, and it's almost impossible to work unless you have a remote job, which means you need to have a computer. You have some other things in there, but transportation, a means of getting to the source of your money and being able to regenerate it takes money. It's not in a vacuum. You can't just support what you need. The other thing that I want to say about buckets, okay, is a lot of times in our education, that when I'm teaching classes, I'll talk about containers. And we can't take in a whole bunch of knowledge without having a place to contain it. Otherwise, it's just comes in and leaves us. And so a lot of times I'll talk about we have to support what we want with a container. And a bucket, of course, is a container. And so one of the principles that we learned in the finance event that we were at is this concept of buckets. And you want to have 3 buckets: the security bucket, the wants bucket, and the dreams bucket. But what I have done is kind of defined our buckets in terms of a system where we're keeping track of where our money is going. And so the needs bucket is our first level. And unfortunately, the needs bucket looks like a colander to a lot of us, right? It's full of holes, and we're trying to save and move from bucket to bucket, right? But it doesn't matter whether you're pulling in a cup of water or a spoonful of water at a time. If your needs bucket has holes in it, you are going to struggle. And what I don't want you guys to do is have that struggle. And so what we need to do is start plugging those holes. Now, oops, I don't want to go there just yet, but what I need to do is get to where I can see that screen. Okay, so one of the ways that we can stop the bucket from draining out everything we have is to have a budget. And it's such a simple thing, but so many people get hung up on this. They just spend. Whatever money comes in, they spend it. Whatever trickles in, if you will, it is lost. And what we need to do is really define what we have, whether that's income or money that comes into us. What is it that we have, and what are our expenses? And then to be realistic about it and figure out what the gap is. Okay. So I am an ULA certified coach, and one of our programs is called the Green Gap. And basically the Green Gap is super easy. It's what is your income and what is your expenses? And the difference between the two is your gap. Now, the gap can be red, meaning your income is less than your expenses, and you just, you never are going to catch up. Or it's green, you have a little bit. And if you have the green gap, which is what we're working towards, then you have something you can do. Whereas if you are always in the red, you're always going to be struggling. So we've got to get you to, maybe with your budget, maybe when you have the reality of what is coming in and the reality of what you're spending it on, then you can look and make decisions with a budget. And if the budget keeps getting busted, that's when we're like, okay, why? That's why people track their expenses. That's why people really start honing in. Anytime you focus on something, you're going to get better, right? You're going where focus goes, energy flows. So when you start concentrating on the money piece, that is going to get you to where you start to recognize and make different choices. And I see Margaret's got something there about buying things on Temu, which they did great advertising in the Super Bowl, right? To want us to feel like a billionaire. And that's a huge example of how the world will influence us a certain way and make us feel like that is what we should be doing, even though it doesn't support our big dreams. And that's just like one example of how worldly things will get us trapped all the time. And what did I say when we started? Money is a spiritual game, right? So we want to stay away from the worldly way of doing things because we need to get into a different frame of mind, a different way to look at how money works for us. All right. And I see I've got one more thing there. I'm going to have to go full screen so that I can see it. And then we have the debt. Debt will drain your bucket to no end, right? It just keeps pulling away. So we have got to work towards eliminating the debt. And I love that Margaret put in here. She recognizes, and awareness is the first step, right? Recognizes that she's buying stuff and she could be paying off a credit card. And it's beautiful that you're recognizing that, Margaret, because until you see it, you can't do anything about it. And so now it's the recognition of it's not as much fun, right? But what could you do to plug a hole in that need bucket so that you can get to the next level, so that you can get to the security bucket? Like if you can't even fill that needs up, you can't get to the security. And that's the battle that so many people are fighting. And we're going to talk tomorrow about that second bucket and how we can use the money police to help us in that area. But I don't want to leave us on a sour note, just talking about the dire outlook of the needs bucket, right? So we're going to talk about something fun that we started last month, and that is Fingo. So some of you know we did a bingo, and it was a fun sheet, and I had you guys fill it out for your year. And you went ahead and filled in all the blanks on things that you had to do. And we called it bingo, but it was all based on the 7 F's. And during that time period, I came up with, what if we called it Fingo because of the 7 F's? And so what I did is I put together just a very simple finance Fingo. So this is a bingo board, and I basically have set it up for us on the area of finances. And what I have done is the first level of our Fingo board is very simple. Yes, Margaret, F and go. I love it. And so what I have set up is you get a mark for day 1 of the masterclass. So whether you're live or watching the replay, make sure you tag it in there so that you're valid when you go across with your Fingo. But you'll get your day 1 masterclass for today. And then tomorrow and the third day, we're running across. Because you're in the masterclass, you have the ability to come into our check-in, which will be before the end of the month, which will be next week. Because of this short month and because of my trip last week, the condensing a little bit of our weeks, but we're going to consider it. Next week is our check-in week. So we're going to set some goals this week. Then you're going to be working on those goals, and we're going to have that progress check-in. And then at the end of the month, we're going to check in and say, how did we do on our finance goals this month? How did we tweak something? Just 2 millimeters will get you a shift that will change the trajectory of your finances. Just by focusing on it this month, we're going to see what changes for you. And so if you do all the stuff this week, and you do the check-in next week, and at the end of the month, you share your results, you have a bingo across the board. And that will be a fun way for you to make bingo, or make a Fingo, as we say. The next level, if you want to play in deeper, would be to come into our VIP. VIP. You can put hashtag VIP in the comments. And the VIP line is really simple. You got to say you want to be in VIP. That's going to get you a mark on that box. Hashtag VIP in the comments. The Q&A is you get to come in and ask me some questions. So it's just a Zoom. It's in the evenings. It's actually going to be one time this time, and it's going to be tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Central. And I have that on the next slide, so don't worry about writing it down. Because you're in VIP, you'll get to do the weekend workshop this weekend, which is from 10 a.m. to 12 Central Time. And it's going to be our deep dive. So everything we've taken from the masterclass, this is going to be a chance for you to ask questions. And we'll delve into some of the Tony Change Your Life kind of principles, strategic transformation, I like to call it. And we can do some energy work around your thinking, your mindset on finances. And then schedule a one-on-one with me. I'm opening up for 15-minute spots this month so that you and I can talk about what specific finance goals you have and how we can track those and how we can keep those working for you. So that is the first 2 lines of our Fingo board for the month of February. You'll notice I covered up the rest of them. We're going to be opening them up each day. I actually put the Fingo board in a PDF in the community. You just go across the top to the files tab and you'll have the first 2 days. And so each day I'll add in the additionals, but you got to come all 3 days to get your full board. And we're going to have prizes at the end of the month for completing your bingos and doing your boards. So I'm excited for you guys and excited for this new way of doing things with the Fingo. And I hope that you won't miss tomorrow, which is our Money Police Day. That's a thing. And then the VIP, like I mentioned, we will be doing Thursday evening. It can be, it's 8 p.m. Central, whatever your time zone is, you can modify there. And then over the weekend, love to have you be a part of that. And it's a really great time for us to just embrace some of our thinking and get some shifts there, have some breakthroughs. All right. Love you guys. I'm so happy that you got to be here today and that we got our time together for day 1 of our masterclass. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow with our day 2. Really hoping that you will join us. Tell all your friends. Let everybody know that this has been an amazing course and that they don't want to miss day 2. All right. Take care, and I'll see you guys soon.